We begin our 16th season this morning. In fact, this is show number 3,979, which is pretty amazing. We begin our show with, in fact, something that has been called the plague upon our land, the drug issue. And we ask for your comments. What would you do if you came home one evening only to discover that your son and some of his friends were doing drugs in the basement? Would you ask them to leave your house? Would you call the police? Ann Valukis knows the answers to these questions because that was the situation she faced last Thursday night. At 11:30, she arrived home and saw that there was a light on in the basement. She went to check it out. She found her 22-year-old son, Craig, and some of his friends smoking marijuana and in possession of cocaine. She requested that they leave immediately. A short time later, when they had not left, she called the police, and they came and they arrested everyone, including her son. The 5 arrested now face charges of drug possession, and except for Craig, they face trespassing charges as well. Ann joins us this morning along with Dr. Tom Cottle to discuss the effects of turning your child in. And we welcome your phone calls. If you're going through this, how tough do you want to be? What do you think you should be doing? What have you done? Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning.
Your son, Craig, is willing to talk with us. He's at work, and we'll be talking with him in a moment. But you were saying he's up and down. I mean, how is he reacting to this situation?
Well, I think emotionally he's up and down. One minute he's angry, and then the next minute he's very loving and open and like his usual self.
Why don't you talk about what happened Thursday night?
Okay. I had been away all evening visiting my older son. When I came home, my driveway was full of cars, and I saw a truck. So I went and called Craig's name, and I couldn't find anybody. So I started to go upstairs, and then I saw a basement and a light in the basement, and I thought, uh-oh, that's trouble. So I went downstairs, and I saw Craig out standing away from the other 4. I did not catch them smoking marijuana, by the way. They all had beer bottles in their hand. One young man was bent over the table, and I saw a flame. That's what scared me, because I always think of Richard Pryor, how badly he got burnt, and I thought, oh my God, what if these kids do it to themselves, you know? So I called him outside, and I said, Craig, you know, what's going on here? I said, it doesn't look good. And, you know, he admits he was drunk, and he said, you know, I'm just trying to keep them from burning the house down. And I thought, you know, that's not the kind of answer I want to hear from you. I said, look, you get yourself and everybody else out of here in the next 10 minutes. So he walked back. I went upstairs, and I was watching the clock for 15 minutes. Nothing happened, and I said, that's it, boys, you've had it.
And you called the police?
I called the police, and I told them.
Now, they all pleaded innocent.
Yes.
So we have to say that this is alleged, but here you are talking about it. So how does Craig feel about that?
Oh, well, I'm sure he's probably one moment angry and the next moment saying, gee, I wish I hadn't done it, you know, or whatever.
This is not new to you, Ann. You've gone through this before.
No. Oh, yes.
You have one son, I know I was reading, has brain damage from drug use.
Yeah, from PCP.
Did you know that Craig was using?
I have known since he was 13 or 14 that marijuana's been in his life and alcohol, and it's been an up and down thing. I have put him in treatment places, and sometimes he does real well, and then he slips down again.
Was this a mother's anger? Was this...
Probably both. Anger and love.
Did you expect that this was a final resort on your part?
This is the last straw. I mean, it has to be, you know, and I'm asking for help for him, and I'm hoping through the Natick police system, because the Natick police are sympathetic. They have always been good about my boys when they've been in trouble. They've always tried to get them help.
Would you call your family dysfunctional? And I don't mean that. I mean that with respect,
I know
because you know the word is used.
Right. As far as is alcohol and drugs, I would say yes.
Your ex-husband?
Yes.
Has a problem with alcohol?
Has had a problem with alcohol, yes, for a long time.
What was Craig's reaction when he knew Mom had turned him in?
Well, when he came out in handcuffs, he was very angry, and he was screaming, and I just said, I'm sorry, Craig, you're sick.
And he spent the night in jail?
He would have, because I asked them to keep him because he was so angry. But they did give him a very low bail, and they did release him.
And how did he react when he got home?
He didn't come home that night. They told him not to come home, okay, not to come near me. Because, you know, I said, I think we both need time to cool down. And it was right. It was the right thing.
And now it's okay? You're
he's home
on?
for a week, but he does know he has to find another place to live.
All right, Craig, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
And you've been listening to this?
Yes, I am.
All right, how do you feel about all of it?
I truly feel I've been convicted before my trial. I really do, by the media and by other people. I just think it's blown way out of proportion. You know, I've never had nothing like this in my life ever happen.
Have you been doing drugs and drinking since you were 13?
No, I have not been drinking since I was 13.
Okay.
No.
But you've been doing drugs. Would you call it
Marijuana.
recreational use?
As a
Or
kid, I did smoke marijuana, and I went into a few treatments for it. But I truly didn't start drinking until I was about 20 years old.
what do you think that what your mother did was an act of love, or listen, I've had it. I'm getting tough with you.
I could see the ways of active love, yes. But I think personally she should have came down with a baseball bat and chased us out rather than to call the police.
Are you angry, Craig, because the media picked up on this right away? Because
yes, I am, because there's so many lies out there now. They're calling my house a crack house. They're calling me a crack dealer and user, and I'm not. I'll have to prove that through court. But just to say I'm not.
Do you think because of this now you'll get treatment and you'll get out of this scene?
I hope so. My main fear right now is jail, and that's what I don't want to see. It's been a fear all my life. I've never done nothing bad to have something like that hanging over my head. But now it is, and it really does scare the shit out of me. Excuse my language. But
Yeah. Well, I thank you for calling. How's the reaction at your job, at work?
Well, everyone's picking on me, but they like me. They're all wishing me well. They're just fooling around. That's the guys at work, I would say.
Yeah.
My boss isn't here till Thursday. I don't know his reaction yet.
Have you done any drugs since the incident?
No, I have not, ma'am.
Do you think you will again?
No, I will not.
Well, I hope you do get treatment, though, Craig, and find out why in the first place. And I think that's what young people need to do today. I wish you well. I thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Tom, what's your feeling on this whole story?
Oh, boy, I think it's a complicated story. I was telling before we went on the air, it is not uncommon for parents to call the police and say, arrest my child, he or she is incorrigible. Years ago, as I told you earlier, it was the #1 cause of arrest. So what Ann Valukis has done, while it reaches front-page proportions because of the scourge of drugs, is not that remarkable in terms of parents doing it. I can't believe that parents do it purely out of anger. I think they must do, I hope that they do it, and I think, knowing Ann a little bit, that they do it with great complications. Last straw, this is it, I don't know what to do. I am absolutely desperate. That's it, I can't do it. And her son says, I wish you brought the baseball bat, which is probably an impulse that we have.
Have you called the police before, Ann?
Yes, on my oldest son and on my middle son, yes.
And were they arrested?
Well, no, for different incidences. My oldest son in his teens stole something from a local store, and the manager was very nice. He said, I know you're Mrs. Valukis, and you're a nice lady. He says, I don't want your son to go to jail. He said, but he stole something today. He said, if he returns it, he said, I won't call the police. I said, don't bother, I'll do it. And so I called the police, and he was on probation. I called the probation officer, and the probation officer took care of it.
Did that straighten him up?
For a while. But the drugs and drink were there, so, it's a syndrome.
How hard is it for you as a mother to get your sons into treatment? I mean, you can't in this state force any young person to go into treatment.
You can force them if they're underage, and I have done that with Greg. Yes, I have. Darren was kicked out of the house young because he just was too difficult to handle.
So you made him leave the house?
Yes, he left twice, came back, and then by then I left because the divorce, the marriage wasn't good.
So it has not been easy on you.
No,
You've
no,
had a lot of
of course not.
pain. What
Sure.
would you have done differently now, looking back?
Probably not married that man, but who knows?
So does he get all the blame in your mind?
Well, no. I mean, I do realize the genetic factor, but I have to say that when you have all boys, you do have to have a good male image, and I'm sure the doctor will agree with me on that.
Is that true?
I think that's really important.
I guess that what I feel is listening to you, Ann, is that I guess that a lot of us need a policeman in our head. It's called the superego. It's called some sense of conscience. And fathers have to put it in there, mothers have to put it in there. When fathers are not around and when fathers are abusive of drugs, then you're predisposing these three young guys with those situations. You're putting them on a course that's very different than the course that a lot of other children find when dad is around, dad never gets drunk, dad never drinks, mom's the same way, she's clean. It's not necessarily cause and effect, but if you want to cause trouble for kids and you want to up the odds that they're going to have trouble, then show me a dysfunctional family where the father's not around or the father's abusing drugs, having boys, mom trying to do her best. You said before we went on the air, trying to be mother and father, which you cannot be. You can only be the parent.
I remember my days as a single parent. You begin to feel like a voice in the wilderness because you are the only voice. You tune out. Your children tune you out.
Exactly, but let's be very careful. There is no evidence at all that the children of single parents are the ones that are taking drugs.
No,
so
but I was
single
just
parent
pointing
thing.
out, though, that it always makes it a little easier if there are two people.
Exactly.